folks, thanks for being here. We'll open up today's press conference. Front row, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Hi, Ryan. Defensively, what's maybe your biggest area of concern? Like, what's maybe an area you guys want to clean up the most?
Well, coming out of the game, I think when you look at the game, the first thing you recognize, we lost the turnover battle. Anytime you play in a game like that hurts you. We didn't create any turnovers. That's the first thing. The second thing was the explosive plays. Too many explosive plays. So right out of the gate, that's the first thing. And then we didn't win the rushing yards. So, all of those things have got to get fixed if we're going to win a game like that.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Is there any update on Josh Simmons, his status?
Yeah, he'll be out for the season. Yeah, he I won't get into all the details of it, but yeah, it's a knee injury, and so he'll be out.
What kind of progress did he make since joining this program about a year and a half ago?
Oh yeah, no, he really had made a lot of progress and was playing very, very well. So big loss, but got an opportunity to for another guy to step up. Zen will be in there and help have a good week of practice this week. And I thought he stepped up and did a nice job in the Oregon game. He's a veteran guy who's played a lot of football here in the program, not as much in games, but goes against really good players every day in practice. So I think he was able to go into that game in a big environment and build confidence coming out of it.
Third row left, Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, I know you guys have a high pressure rate looking at some of those numbers, but are you happy with the pass rush, the amount it's getting home, and maybe the scheme that's being drawn up to get after the quarterback?
Again, I'm not happy with anything right now, but certainly we want to get more pressure on the quarterback. There's no question. And it's the coach's job to make sure that we put our players in a situation and environment to be successful. So that's the first thing we've got to look at, and then it's the player's job to go do it and execute it. So all those things were part of the conversation this past week, and we definitely need to do a better job there.
Stefan Kreisny, Cleveland.com.
You mentioned Zen there. He's been part of the program, even if he hasn't played as much in games. Where have you kind of seen him grow the most throughout the past few years that gives you confidence that he can slot in there?
What you see every day in practice, and a veteran guy that's, it's been in the program for a while, so he knows what we're doing. And then what you see every day in practice. And, that's the thing about being a backup is, you never know when your time is going to be. And then all of a sudden you get thrust into a game like that one. But he was ready. Was it perfect? No, but, he did some good things. And so, he's got some good guys right next to him with Donovan and Seth that can, help communicate some of those things that are going on with the calls. But again, that's the other thing I try to tell guys like that. When you're going against Jack and JT and Kenyatta every day in practice, you should be able to go out in those environments and compete and have confidence.
How much does it help him to have Donovan right there next to him as
Yeah,
well?
I think it really helps, yeah. Just having veteran guys right there to communicate what's going on with the calls, because as you know, so much of the offensive line is the communication and what's going on with the calls and making sure everybody's on the same page, and then making adjustments based on what we're seeing in the game, and anything that may be coming up if we need to add something or just make an adjustment based on what we're seeing. Those are all things that are important.
Tony Girdman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, rumor last week that Lathan Ransom was injured in practice. Can you address that and anything there?
Yeah, no other updates on any injuries right now. Yeah.
Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Ryan, you said before, after games that don't go your way, you guys have to evaluate whether it's coaching, talent, or execution, or scheme, talent, or execution. As you look back at Oregon, do you pinpoint one of those as a problem? And if so, what's the step to address it? Because there's obviously other talent-weighted games coming.
Yeah, I think the first thing, like you said, you look at the personnel. You have to make sure we got the right people in the right spots. I think we do. Maybe we can tweak a few things, but I think we have the right people in the right spots. Then it comes down to scheme. I think there's some things that we can do better for sure, putting guys in better situations to be successful. And then there's the coaching, and I think we definitely can do a better job there of making sure that the guys understand exactly what they're doing, getting them lined up, and then going from there. But I think it's a combination of scheme and coaching.
Don Taberry, WBNS.
Coach, you've said from the get-go this is going to be a long season, especially with the playoff. Some are compared to maybe like to an NFL season. It's hard to go undefeated, period. Not happy with the loss, but what do you say to the kids and everyone, because the goals are still there?
Yeah, well, like you come out of the game and you got to identify the things that didn't work, which we did. Make some adjustments. Do I need to overhaul everything? No, we don't need to overhaul everything, But there are some things, the way that we're coaching things, the way that we're scheming some things. We need to make adjustments there. There's no question. But once all that settles, you realize that there's a lot of football ahead of us, and you look ahead at what we got in the second half of the season, and then right here with Nebraska. And so, you quickly move on to that and realize that, there's a lot of teams across the country that have taken a loss. So now we got to go adjust and play our best football here in the second half of the season. You could have as many as, 10 games from here on out. So, that's important to make sure that we now move forward. We learn from the game, but we can't dwell on it. We got to move forward, and we got to focus on Nebraska.
With the way you're handling things now, has this allowed you maybe to get more involved with the defense now?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely been in there more in the last week than I have in the past. And, ultimately it's my job to make sure that all three phases are the way they're supposed to be. So I'm going to make sure that gets done.
Dave Holmes, WSYX.
Yeah, Ryan, what was it about Dylan Raiola back when you guys were in on him that you liked? And also, 20 years ago when guys would decommit, or transfer, it was like, oh my goodness, the sky's falling. But now it's Quinn Ewers, Emory Jones, Dylan. I mean, every program has all these guys who were at one point in their pipeline. Are you able to take the emotion out of that as head coach when guys go elsewhere? So just kind of thoughts on Raiola and the past there.
Yeah, I think I heard a stat the other day that of the starting quarterbacks in the Big Ten, maybe it was like 14 or something like that have been transfers. So whether it's decommitments or transferring, it's part of the world that we live in right now. So you just have to adapt to it. We try to make sure that we're retaining as many of our guys as possible. That's kind of the stability of our program and the culture of our program. But so yeah, that's that. When it comes to Dylan, I think he's got an opportunity to be a great player. I think he's already playing at a high level, and he's got a lot of talent, and he's got a great family.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, as far as Quinshon, you said on the radio he's doing fine. How is he practicing this week, and whatever he may have been dealing with, did that have any effect at the Oregon game with like the fumble?
No, it'll look close at that, but that wasn't an issue there. A minor procedure. I think he's actually feeling better now than maybe he did going into the Oregon game. So he's good.
Was it not? It was not something that was lingering before Oregon.
Yeah, it didn't affect the Oregon game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Denzel's a veteran for you guys, who's played a lot of football, but obviously clearly didn't have his best game a couple of weeks ago. And I think we've had this conversation about other guys in the past, but striking that balance of letting a guy like that who has played a lot of football, done a lot of good things for you, figure it out versus maybe trying somebody else in that spot, like a Jermaine Matthews, who has been thrown in there at times. Was there any conversation like that happening throughout the game of, hey, let's give Denzel a series off, let him get his head together, and let's throw Jermaine Matthews out there just to see if we can get something different?
Yeah, it's definitely part of the conversation, and you have to decide what gives you the best chance to win in that moment. And decision was made, and so we evaluate that and figure out if that's the right thing moving forward. But we believe in Denzel. We think he's a great player, and he did have a couple plays there that weren't good, and he would tell you the same thing. And so he came out last week and had a good week of practice. Needs another one this week, and he'll rebound and play well this week.
How do you feel about your secondary depth, cornerback and safety overall right now, 6 games into it?
Yeah. We probably have more depth at corner than at safety, but I feel like we do have enough guys back there to get what we need to get done.
Bill Landis, Kings of the North.
Ryan, are Jim and Larry on the same page with how to go about generating more pressure and the schematic tweaks you're talking about with the defense?
Yeah, for sure. I know that there was a point maybe early on when Jim got here where there was conversation about the jack and all that. But our goal is to put the best 4 rushers in the game, or if there's 5, maybe there's 5 or whatever it is. And so that decision's been made, and we reevaluate those things. When you have to, certainly after a loss, but even during a bye week, you're going to do something like that. But no, I think I've watch closely, and I think that they're both on the same page. And we all want this week especially. We've wanted to look at everything, and nobody's feeling good about anything right now. It's just coming off of that thing. There's a lot of guys on edge, and that's the way it should be. After a loss, but no, they're on the same page. I think that's the point. And I've been in there the last week a little bit more and just evaluating everything. And I think the one thing is there can be conversation in the room, but when you leave the room, everybody's on the same page, and that's happening. I'm seeing that. But it's again our job as coaches to make sure we're putting them in the best position to be successful. And you got to evaluate it, and you got to be honest, and you got to make sure you're talking the truth in those moments. And I think that's happened the last week, and excited to get back on the field here.
If you look at, and I know the job of any coordinator is just to sort of take the talent on hand and put those guys into the best position, like you're saying.
Right.
If you look at some of what Jim did at Oklahoma State and what he's doing now, it does look quite different in terms of like structure and fronts and all those things. What were the conversations like when you hired him about like, hey man, do your stuff, or was it, no, we have our players here, work around what we have on hand?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, I mean, my goal, bringing Jim in was to be the head coach of the defense and to run it. But there was also, we have, recruited very well in the defensive line. So, when he was at Oklahoma State, they didn't have, 4 down D linemen and then certainly no depth behind it. So, he had to be creative about what he was doing there. Decision was made a long time ago that, we have the D linemen here at Ohio State that can play with 4 down linemen. Now, might we consider some different fronts and changing that up? I think it's all very good conversation, and we have to make sure that, we're going down all those roads to make sure that, we're putting these guys in a chance to be successful. We're making it, not easy for the offense to just, line up and know where we're coming from. So, but I think at the end of the day, to answer your question, it comes down to the personnel you have and where you are, and to put them in a chance to be successful. And, I feel like, we have plenty of D linemen here, and we have the right guys on the field. But we got to make sure that, we are changing it up and making sure that, it isn't just, a 4-man rush straight all the time, for sure.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you mentioned previously about Chip that he's a guy who will stick with the run. Against Oregon, second half, 12 rushes, 7 of those were running backs. Why did you guys get away from that? And obviously you moved the ball.
Right.
Why did it get away from that in that game?
No, I think probably, the last drive probably skewed it a little bit because it was in a 2-minute drill, but I thought we had a good mix of run and pass in that game. And, I think that we were explosive. I think we had 11 explosive plays, and a bunch of them were in the pass game. So I like the way he called it. And, we do have to win the rushing yards, though, so we got to keep hammering that. But, no, I think the balance is what you're looking for there. And I like the way the guys came out and moved the ball down the field in the 2-minute drill. That part was good. Obviously, the end wasn't what we wanted. But, I think that overall execution, you could see that, we're in a position to go win games. Now we got to go win games. And a big part of that is what we're talking about here, winning in the fourth quarter and finishing out games. So, all things that we're looking at and talking about.
Is that a matter of him kind of feeling it in the moment and Will playing the way he was? You kind of go with what's working in that situation? Yeah,
a big part of it is what you're seeing, too, for looks. And, I think there was some times where we were in 11 personnel and they had base in the game. And, so there was some different things that they were doing. So I think that's the sign of a good offense when you can quickly, go to one thing based on what you're seeing. And now if all of a sudden we were just throwing the ball and it was a mess and we weren't completing the ball, then I think that would be the problem. But, again, I thought we had a good mix there. And, again, didn't finish it the way we wanted to.
5th row left, Noah Weiskopf, the Lantern.
Yeah, Ryan, how important do you think it was to have a bye week right after a loss to almost let that feeling sink in for the players, the coaching staff? Do you think that's significant?
I mean, it is what it is. It was a long week for all of us, and a lot of hours in here talking about it. And you sit on it and you chew on it, and then eventually you move on and you look forward, and that's kind of where we are. And we did that last Wednesday. Tuesday we came out here practice, and then Wednesday we said, okay, here's what we got moving forward. Here are the things that we got to get done and address them. So I think we did get an opportunity to get some guys some rest and get them healthy. Also get some younger guys a bunch of reps. So got back here Sunday, practice on Sunday, and now have a team meeting here at 2:30 and get back to work on a Tuesday practice.
Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, I asked Jim after the game if maybe part of the defensive issues were sort of a shock to the system, not seeing that kind of speed in a game situation. He said it's possible. He said it's up to him to try to fix that and get that talent quality better. How do you do that? I mean, you've got talent in practice, but how do you work that out?
Well, like you said, you got to find ways in practice, and that's been part of the conversation, as you can imagine, this past week of putting those guys in that situation, challenging them more vertically in practice, because it's our job as coaches to put them in an environment so that they're ready to go. That's it. But you learn some hard lessons in a game like that when things like that get behind you. So it's our job as coaches. We got to own it and train these guys better.
Where are you with deep ball, long the long passes. That's been an issue, sort of. Is that something you guys really need to focus on? Are you happy with where you are with it? Is that part of, okay.
No, not happy. No. And yes, yeah, we have to do a better job with that. So we'll be launching balls today.
Good, Rob? Yeah. Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Right, I know you said you don't have the injury update elsewhere, but do you have an update on Will? And then if he is out for as long as he has to be out?
Will Howard?
No, Will Kazmarek.
Oh.
Where does the tight end position go from there?
Yeah, we'll be out for a little while, but we feel like we have depth in that position. I thought G. Scott played one of his better games in terms of running routes down the field. That part was good, blocking, and then Jelani's gonna have to step up now. Bennett Christian's gonna have to step up. These guys are gonna have to play, and we have to put them in there. But they've been training, they've been working, they've been practicing. They don't miss any reps. But now they're going to be thrust into it, and we knew this was going to happen. This is a great example. Second half of the season, here we go. So, but now they're going to be put into it, and so I think Keenan's done a nice job of building depth. Pat Gerd is in there as well. So all those guys are going to play.
You used Bennett a little bit in the run blocking. How important is he going to be moving forward with that, since Will is kind of your ace there in run blocking?
Yeah, Bennett's gotten better. He's gotten a lot better. Spring, he made some progress. Preseason, you started to see some more. He started to get more consistent. And then as the season's gone on, you've seen him improve, and now he's doing it in games. So, his physicality is going to help us, and he's done a good job running routes as well. So it's time for him to play anyways. So this has kind of happened at the right time.
Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
Yeah, Ryan. Will said after the game the other night, maybe there's a light of fire under us. You've said a couple times not happy with things or with anything you said earlier. Just the attitude, the approach, a chip on the shoulder since this loss. What's anything different? What's different about these guys and approach? Anything? Or
No, I don't think so. And I don't think, Will meant it like that. I just think that, he probably just meant it like we all do. That, when you come from a loss, you just start to, it's like, you put patches or Band-Aids on things, and then all of a sudden, you go to a loss, it gets ripped open, and you just, you have a little bit more, harder conversations. You make bigger decisions, and you just drive it harder. It's just kind of the way it goes after a loss. But that's, that's not anything like we haven't been going hard or pushing hard. I mean, we have been. I mean, we've been going 100 miles an hour around here. And I say to you guys all the time, after every game, the issues are the issues. We've got to address the issues. We've got to address the issues. And we've been hammering that home, and the players have been going hard, practicing hard. So, I don't think that's the case. But I do think, we've got to figure out, and, I think we have a really good plan for it, how to play better in that fourth quarter. And in those games, go win those games. And so, I mean, that's been a huge part of this conversation the past week.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
You mentioned safety depth isn't as strong as corner. Who do you feel like would be the next man up there at safety if you guys do need someone to play more with the first team?
Jalen McLean's done a nice job. Malik Harford's done a nice job. Those guys, have Malik's played some before, and Jalen's a good young player. So I'd probably say those guys. If you're looking at some backups there, it'd be those guys.
Like Jordan or Lorenzo could move and play safety too if needed?
Yeah, I think that's probably the flexibility of having the 3 safety system that would allow us some depth. Like I said before, I think we have enough to go play. So yeah, there's some flexibility there.
Austin Ward, the podcast.
I feel like we're probably belaboring this point, but when Nick Saban says that Ohio State's pass rush is antiquated, did you agree with that after what you saw last week? You prepared for a lot of offenses, and he knows a lot of defense. Is that an accurate description?
Well, when it doesn't work, I mean, it's accurate. It's not working. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's different strategies on how to go do that. But when you have the results that you do right now, then certainly it's not working, and that has to change.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Road.
Yeah, Ryan, it's one thing to play here, it's another thing to suffer a loss here and respond to that. What do you see from Will specifically, Will Howard, and how he's kind of responded to the game at Oregon?
Yeah, I don't think anybody was hurting more than Will Howard after the game. I thought he played his heart out in the game, and it was a second short. And so, you don't just, when you have a bye week, you don't just get over it the next day. It's just not the way it works. And he took a couple days, but had a great energy today. Was in asking questions about, some of the past game with the offensive staff, bouncing around. He looks good. He had a really good practice on Sunday. So, he's ready to go play the second half of the season.
And then just to follow up, you mentioned several times being more involved with the defense. What does that exactly look like for you? Is it just in the meeting rooms? Are you working hands-on with players individually? What's got that balance for you?
Yeah, all the above. Yeah, on the field, in the meeting room. Whatever needs to get done is going to get done.
Adam King, WBMS.
Kind of going off that, Will, when you bring him here, you obviously have a mindset of what you want to see on the field, but you can't see it until you go up against someone like Oregon. There was questions about the big game moment. Looked like he handled it pretty well aside from some other things. Did that give you a lot of confidence moving forward in what he can do for this team and where he can lead you guys?
Well, like I said, the number one goal is to win. What's talked about the defense, and statistics and those things. Well, win. Same thing on offense. It's about winning. So I'd say the same thing about, we didn't win. So it's a loss. But once you take that part out of it and you look at the way he competed, there was a lot of positives coming out that way. So we got to grow on it. So next time we're in that situation, we do win.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Ron, you mentioned Zen obviously steps in the left tackle, but how much, obviously you want to give Zen those reps in practice to get ready, but how much do you balance that with secondary options of either moving down or Tegra over there?
Yeah, we will rotate guys too, but that's pretty normal anyways. We'll have, like, even an inside drill, we'll have 3 groups in there. And then even when we're going scouts or 1s versus 2s, you have the first group and then you have the second group. So those guys are all getting reps, but we will roll guys too.
You mentioned in the summer, obviously the offensive line had the illness that made you guys rotate more guys in fall camp. Do you feel like the way you were seeing that depth, has that progressed the way you thought it was since fall camp?
I think it did help us in a strange way. Yeah, I think guys got forced into it early in camp and had to respond, and I think it allowed them some confidence to know that they can step into that spot and play. So yeah, and now Zen's really got to take the next step. Now it's one thing to be in a situation where you're coming in to clean up a game or finish a game. I wouldn't say that was clean up a game, but that was to finish a game. Now he's got to go about being the starter, and I know he's excited about the opportunity. Deserves it.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
You said you hired Jim Knowles to be the head coach of the defense. In the non-huge games, defense has been great. In the big ones, it hasn't been. How much faith do you have that he's in him right now, and why?
Yeah, well, as I go in the meeting and I had hard conversations with everybody, and I know what the plan is moving forward, and I'm involved with that plan. So yeah, I got confidence in all those guys on that side of the ball, and I know what we need to get done, and we're going to get it done.
Completely unrelated. I watched the game again last night. Last play looked like Will actually got down with 1 second to go, and Brandon was calling timeout right away. Do you have any thoughts on that? Did you send it to the Big Ten? Did you hear anything from them?
Yeah, we sent it in. They said that there was no time left. Brandon was calling a timeout. I was right next to the referee calling a timeout. You can see it on the coach's copy, and they said time had run out.
All right, we'll wrap things up with Tim May, Letterman Row.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for again. By the way, the crowd also had rushed the field, right? I mean, it was chaos down there. So,
yeah.
Will, what do you want Will to take away from those last 6 seconds? Because you were there as a quarterback a long time ago and stuff. I mean, there's so many things on your plate in that moment. What did you want him to take most away from that last play, so to speak?
Well, just when you're in that spot, like you said, I haven't been in that situation before as a quarterback, but I've been in those types of situations. There's a lot going on. And the good news is, we do have the communication, so we're able to give him some information in that moment. And we tried to get a quick pass to Brandon. Someone flashed in his face, and he tried to dart up. And with 6 seconds left, you got to get down pretty quick. And so I think, if we could all do it all over again, he would have got down quicker, or we probably, would have called something maybe with a little bit more spacing to the field. You second guess all these calls when it doesn't work out. So when we're in that situation again, which we worked that same exact situation twice last week where, there was the same time on the clock and we had one timeout in the minus 25-yard line and we had to go kick a field goal. So we continued to work that. Not that we don't do that anyways, but we'll just continually, go through those situations so that when those situations come up, we're just ready to handle it better. But I would just say, obviously in that moment when you have that, we did save the timeout so that if he was to, get vertical and get down, we could call the timeout quickly. Tried to give him a quick pass and just layer it into the boundary.
And these are 2 and 1, little bonus thing, but how much do you listen to outside noise? And do you ever get something from the outside noise? And have you in the last 2 weeks or week and a half gotten something from the outside noise? You know what I'm talking about? People like Austin was just talking about a minute ago, that you go, yeah, you know what? Never thought of that. I mean, how often do you do that? And then number 2, when you go into a meeting room with, like Jim knows, for example, the defense, are you going in there going, hey, I want to see this changed? Or is it always conversation?
A little bit of both there. Yeah, coming off of something like that, there's both. And the other question was
Outside noise. I mean,
oh yeah, well,
experts in this room.
it's easy. It's easy for everyone to say, just ignore everything. Well, your players are reading it. Your players' parents are reading it. Recruits are reading it. So you got to be aware of what's going on out there. But at the end of the day, you have to focus on what's right and what your team's about, and that's really what comes down to. And I think it's important for our guys to understand that. But when you come to Ohio State, that comes to the territory. You know that, and a lot of people care, and I understand that. I mean, it's my job as the head coach to make sure that when we get in that situation again, we win the game. So trust me, nobody's working harder, and nobody felt worse coming out of that game than I did. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it's right. Yeah, you guys got it. Yep.